Good morning, it's January 16th, and this is To My Liberal Friends. You know, you have to love politics. Donald Trump is found to have classified documents at his home in Mar-a-Lago, and his political opponents immediately called for an investigation and prosecution. Democrat after Democrat went before the media and denounced the former president and called him all kinds of names, including being a criminal. But one of the biggest adages in politics is what goes around comes around, and we've seen it repeatedly. And now we have Republicans calling for an investigation of Biden because he had classified documents in not one place, but at least two places. One was an office at the Penn Biden Center in Washington, D.C., and the other at his home in Delaware. And Democrats, well, they seem to have lost their voice, and the only thing they can say is that this is apples to oranges, and that Trump having classified documents is much worse. Now, since the documents in question, in both cases, are classified, we don't really know what's in these documents. All we know is they're classified, and they should have been in the possession of the government. And in both cases, they were not. There are some differences that I think are important. Trump left the White House in 2021, and in 2022, we heard about documents that were at his home in Florida. Trump contested that they were still classified, and in my opinion, he's lost that argument. His comment that a president can declassify documents is basically true, but not in the way that he suggested. There is a procedure to declassify material, and just thinking it, as Trump has said, that doesn't qualify. Now we look at the Biden case. He's had these documents for over 6 years since he left the office of vice president. Nobody seems interested in asking why he had them. I think that's a question worth asking. Then we look at where they were. In the first place, it was in the Penn Biden Center here in D.C. It is an office that he no longer uses, and there was no real security procedures in place. In the second case, they've been in the garage at his home in Delaware. Now, a garage is not a place one would normally think of as a storage place for top secret documents. Biden's comment that they were locked up with his Corvette is ludicrous on its face. I guess he's suggesting his Corvette is secure, so the documents are secure. But he never addresses who else had access to the garage, and while he's had Secret Service personnel at his Delaware home, I'm sure that nobody thought to stop people, including his son Hunter, from going in and out of the garage. Mentioning Hunter Biden makes Democrats cringe. And as a father, I feel bad for Joe because this particular son has been a screw-up most of his life. Now, I speak from that as personal experience, and I know that Biden has done everything he could to help his son, but sometimes it doesn't work. One of my daughters struggled, and it was not until we brought the hammer down that she realized she was on the wrong path. So making excuses for children is something many parents are guilty of, blaming themselves for bad decisions their children make. Now, Hunter Biden is surrounded by problems based on his foreign dealings, including massive financial transactions involving China. And it's probably just a coincidence that the Penn Biden Center has seen millions of dollars in donations from China. But it raised some questions that will eventually have to be answered. The younger son of Biden has in the past listed the Delaware property as his address, and in one instance claimed that he actually owned the property. All of this raises questions that any investigation should be required to answer. The first is, why was the discovery of classified documents not disclosed when it was found? After all, they discovered it back in November. It was just before the midterm elections, and when you factor in that Justice Department knew about Hunter Biden's laptop prior to the 2020 election, you have to ask if they were allowing politics to enter into the disclosure. That leads to the second question concerning Joe Biden himself. What did Biden know about this discovery, and when was he told? Was he told before the public, and did he ask them to squelch the disclosure? Or did any of his White House staff know and attempt to block the disclosure prior to the elections? Of course, we would also want to know what was in the documents, just as we want to know what was in the Trump documents. But I don't think we're ever going to know that information. The final question in my mind is, now that we have two special counsels looking at two different cases that are only related by their subject, what will the outcome be and how long will the investigations take? Special counsels are normally given a wide range of powers, and they tend to get expanded as they proceed. This leads to the possibility that either of them could come up with new and more damaging information. One such outcome is the widening scope could include asking who Kathy Chung is. We know she's a friend of Hunter Biden, that he recommended her to a job in the White House with his dad. She becomes his administrative assistant as vice president, and some have said she was the one who helped pack up his office. Now, she's been interviewed, and she now has a job at the Pentagon. Republicans will certainly investigate, and they're already demanding the visitors logs of who was at the Biden home in Delaware. And the White House announces we don't keep visitors' logs at his home. In reality, I'm not sure Biden even knew he had these documents, but the fact is he did have them, and they were not secured, leaving open a lot of questions. Questions that will eventually have to be answered, and it might not be good for Joe Biden and his plans for 2024. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.